if you find adventure at the click of a button, or from the turn of a page, or the casting of a die. Join your hosts, Coniff and Shiloh, on an unforgettable journey. Questing the Multiverse. So, there's a man crawling through the desert. He decided to try his SUV in a little bit of cross-country travel, had great fun zooming over the Badlands and through the sand, got lost, hit a big rock, and then he couldn't get it started again. There were no cell phone towers anywhere near, so his cell phone was useless. He had no family. His parents had died a few years before in an auto accident, and his few friends had no idea he was out here. He stayed with the car for a day or so, but his one bottle of water ran out, and he was getting thirsty. He thought maybe he knew the direction back, now that he'd paid attention to the sun, and thought he'd figured out which way was north, so he decided to start walking. He figured he only had to go about 30 miles or so, and he'd be back in the small town he'd gotten gas in last. He thinks about walking at night to avoid the heat and sun, but based upon how dark it actually was the night before, and given that he has no flashlight, he's afraid that he'll break a leg or step on a rattlesnake. So, he puts on some sunblock, puts the rest in his pocket for reapplication, later brings an umbrella he'd had in the back of the SUV with him to give him a little shade, pours the windshield wiper fluid into his water bottle in case he gets that desperate, brings his pocket knife in case he finds a cactus that looks like it might have water in it, and he heads out in the direction he thinks is right. He walks for the entire day. By the end of the day, he's really thirsty. He's been sweating all day and his lips are starting to crack. He's reapplied the sunblock twice and tried to stay under the umbrella, but he still feels sunburned. The windshield wiper fluid sloshing in the bottle in his pocket is really getting tempting now. He knows that it's mainly water and some ethanol and coloring, but he also knows that they add some kind of poison to it to keep people from drinking it. He wonders what the poison is and whether the poison would be worse than dying of thirst. He pushes on, trying to get to that small town before dark. By the end of the day, he starts getting worried. He figures he's been walking for at least 3 miles an hour, according to his watch, for over 10 hours. That means that if his estimate was right, that he should be close to the town. But he doesn't recognize any of this. He had to cross a dry creek bed a mile or two back, and he doesn't remember coming through it in the SUV. He figures that maybe he got his direction off just a little, and that the dry creek bed was just off to one side of his path. He tells himself that he's close, and that after dark he'll start seeing the town lights over one of these hills. And that'll be all he needs. And I'm going to stop here, Shiloh, because this is page 1 of 24 of The Longest Joke in the World.
Wow.
And let me tell you, so listener, welcome to episode 18. If you are interested in the longest joke in the world, all you have to do is go to your search engine, type in the longest joke in the world, and it's formatted on that page extremely annoyingly. I have pulled it into Word doc. I made the font size 11, Calibri, and it comes out at 10,856 words. And so the first time I ever read this, Shiloh, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, the longest joke in the world, what? Like, a few paragraphs or maybe like maybe a few pages. No, we're talking 10,000 words. And by the time I got to the punchline, I had forgotten that I was reading a joke and not just reading a story. And so when you get all the way to the end and you read the punchline, you've been on like a whole like roller coaster of emotions with this. But the punchline actually like makes sense with the joke and the setup. And so it's, I don't know, it's like this weird mixture of you feel robbed because all of that was for this one dumb punchline. But then on the flip side, you're like, that was actually kind of like an entertaining story. So that's that was your little primer for the longest joke in the world. Do you have any good jokes that you like to tell maybe your nieces and nephews or at the...
Oh, yeah, nothing I could tell even on the airwaves. So
nothing that's family friendly.
It's all kitchen humor. So,
Oh, is that okay? Bad humor. I have a favorite joke
Naughty.
that's not the longest joke in the world, and that is, what is the difference between a sharp-dressed man on a bicycle and a poorly dressed man on a unicycle?
ZZ Top.
I think I've told you this joke before on GG Party Chat. I'm pretty sure you answered that exact same way.
Did I?
I think so. The correct answer is attire, which is haha. That's my favorite. I guess you'd call it a dad joke, but yeah. Well, how are you, Shiloh? This is this a week from hell for you, since it's a holiday in the kitchen world? Are you closed for Thanksgiving, though?
No. Well, Thanksgiving Day, yes. Okay. That week, no. We used to close, since they've rearranged our scheduling and our vacay, because we close, like our vacation time is circled around when the restaurant is actually closed. So that kind of dictates whether or not we get that week of Thanksgiving off. And since they've pushed our vacation more heavy towards the fall in early October.
When you had those weeks off, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah. Then, it just doesn't make sense, I suppose. And I guess they think that they can capitalize off of
the lazy
Black
folks.
Friday shoppers, although usually by that point people are passed out because they've been in and out of stores at 4 a.m. or whatever these crazy people do. But yeah, and we're not really near any shopping mecca or anything like that. So
other than like what, boutiques and stuff like that.
Yeah, for the most part.
Now on Wednesday, are you guys pretty busy the Wednesday before Thanksgiving for the people that are kind of like, we're gonna cook tomorrow, I don't want to cook tonight?
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some of that, so we'll see.
Not as bad as Valentine's Day though, right?
Oh God, it's the worst day of all time.
It sounds so sad.
Hands down.
But you're not wrong from the kitchen perspective.
Yeah. No, this week has been particularly brutal. We just had somebody had off on Friday night that was kind of out of the blue, so I'm scrambling around trying to make stuff happen. We're busy as all hell, and pretty much the same thing on Saturday, which was just kind of the chef owner and I just looking at each other just like, I can't wait to retire. It was one of those.
Get my cabin in the woods and forget about people for a while.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to see you're alive and at least pretending to do well for yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I almost got held up starting the podcast. I got some drive-by missionaries. I didn't know that was a thing. In the middle of the night.
COVID.
Yeah.
Are they aggressive missionary, like drive-by missionaries?
That's what I was wondering.
Accept Jesus or meet him now.
Yeah, this is going to be my fate. As the great C-3PO once said, this is my lot in life.
Okay, can you walk us through this experience then?
I'm walking my parents' dog is staying with me. My god sister unfortunately passed away earlier this year, and they're having a kind of she was cremated, obviously, but they're having a kind of a post,
like a memorial service.
Yeah, memorial. I almost said post-mortem, but that's a little macabre. But anyway, for her, and so my parents are driving down to Atlanta, and so Titan, the dog, is staying with me, and took him outside, and just people, three guys in an SUV.
Sounds real sketchy.
It was sketchy, and I'm like, hello, and they're just asking me questions about missionaries and if I believe in God and go to church and all this stuff. I'm like, well, yeah, and sure, and okay. I'm just trying to be as nice,
friendly,
but at the same time, just like, hey, you probably shouldn't be out, I don't know, driving around in a van asking people these questions in the middle of the night. But I didn't really say that, but it's what I was thinking in my head.
Were they dressed well? Like, were they dressed uniformly?
Yeah, for the most part. Probably Jehovah's
Jehovah's Witnesses have given up the bikes and moved to more
conventional methods, drive-by tactics. Yeah, I guess.
But they got to get the time right, because this is not the time
hey guys.
for this.
No, not a good time.
Super sketchy.
Especially where I don't live in the sticks, but if you were to try that kind of crap around here in the sticks, ooh, you're gonna walk out with a shotgun in your back.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, trying to go on people's properties. I mean, I live in an apartment complex, so there's none of that, but that's probably why they're out here. But anyway, I shaked them off. I shaked off the feds, and here I am. So,
well, aside from coming toe to toe,
missionaries,
drive-by missionaries, what else have you been up to? You said you've been super busy work, but what about in the video game land or just your pastime land? Any TV shows, books, anything like that?
Man. Well, I mentioned I watched The Creator.
Yes, you said that in Discord.
Yeah, highly recommend it, even though Tempest kind of poo-pooed on my
his
recommendation.
Perspective, I think, was that it doesn't paint United States of American cops in a positive light. But then when he was telling me this, I was like, Hollywood has never done that, so it doesn't bother us.
What movies have you been watching?
Yeah, I was like,
other than maybe Cops, the TV show.
Like, I have friends who are cops. I have friends whose husbands are cops. Like it's just another stereotype that is okay to. I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I don't know exactly what he was getting at, but from what I heard about the movie, it looks really, really good.
It's not really cop based; it's more military. Painting
the military in a bad light. That's another, typical Hollywood. So.
Well, yeah, you get both sides of the story, so I don't know, but either way, he did say he liked it, but I highly recommend seeing this movie. I know someone from our Discord
was it
had
Weevil?
mentioned look it up here. Cinema. It was Mimbo.
Okay.
So Mimbo had recommended it, and I gave her or him.
That's a her.
Her. That's what I thought. She's got a
little baby.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, she recommended it, and I totally agree. It's very, 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 very good. I had to buy it. It's not out on any kind of streaming service yet, but you can buy. I don't even think it's out on Blu-ray or DVD or
I think
any kind of hard copy form. You just have to buy it digitally. It's one of those kind of post theater
Did it hit the theater?
Yeah, it's just not near me. So it was in Nashville, and I was like, I don't have time right now to go see it. So
Fair.
Never did, but really wanted to, and saw that it was available to buy. And I had $10 in Microsoft bucks from my Xbox, and sometimes I just buy stuff like that through the Xbox, and there you go.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, so it was like $10, and I own the movie now. I think I did the same thing with the D&D movie.
Yeah,
and
I was actually just thinking maybe I'll do that with my Xbox points, because we might give up Paramount Plus. Except we are going to give up Paramount Plus. You have, I think we talked about this before, don't you? You have HBO Max, and
I don't have anything right now except for Prime. Yeah,
not even Netflix.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, Netflix, as you know, cracked down on the whole sharing thing anyway. But with Paramount, so we were paying for Paramount, and then Disney Plus, they just upped their, but I've got kids, and so we were getting ready to get rid of Paramount Plus because the wife's like, do you watch anything on that? And I was like, well, like the Honor Among Thieves D&D movies on there, I have seen it like 6 times, so it's like, I don't need it.
Yeah, I think you can give up.
But they just put Paw Patrol Mighty Pups movie on there, and so they knew what they were doing.
Saved by Paw Patrol.
Saved by Paramount Plus subscription, Saved by Paw Patrol for the kids, which of course they love that movie. So, or they love all kids. Kids in general love Paw Patrol, PJ Masks, and then there's like Bluey. So, not that means anything to you, but all the parents out there that have little kids, they've heard of all 3 of those. Probably
they're nodding. I get Christmas lists for my nieces and nephews, and sometimes there are things on there I'm just like, what the hell is that? But it's like that for children of all ages. I'm sure it's been going on. What
is this Paw Patrol? You're just looking at this list.
What is this Voltron lion you want, Chris? So that's what my parents had to put up with. So
other than creator, other than work,
other than a movie and work, I've been really, really kind of totally involved with trying to get Chuka and Champawat, which I mentioned last episode. It's a legendary short bow for my new little Revenant in Guild Wars 2. And so with any time you do one of these huge undertakings in Guild Wars 2, you always run into a hiccup. Okay. And it's like, well, whether or not you get past the hiccups or get past and jump over the wall or just say, well, there's a wall, I think I'm just going to turn back and go back home. Well, I was like, well, crap. So I think I mentioned this to you, not on air, but in a party chat, that I ran into an issue where I needed to buy an Itzel gift of Itzel. And I had bought the gift of Nuok and the gift of Exalted, which I know I'm speaking French here, but for some of you listeners, but they're just little things that you get from a vendor, and you need an unlock in a certain mastery tree before you can actually purchase this little item from a vendor, and it costs a good amount of currency that you get throughout the different maps of Heart of Thorns.
Okay.
Just because I'd been stonewalled and didn't have enough mastery points to actually get the last Adrenal Mushroom mastery, which is the last one in the Itzel lore, it's a crazy amount of XP. I had that. I just didn't have any of the masteries. So I'm like, well, okay, here we go. So I've been working on getting all my mastery points, and I finally got that a few days ago. And that was quite an undertaking, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, I'd kind of forgotten how much fun those maps can be, even though some of those Mordrum snipers and stuff were
in the Tangled Depths.
They can be 1 shot to 2 shots on certain builds and stuff. But with my Revenant, it wasn't just, I'm just a little more tanky.
Well, you are the best Revenant player.
And I'm the best Revenant player of all time.
This is the way. This is known.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do a bunch of those adventures in those zones?
I had done most of the adventures. I tried getting a few mastery points by getting golds. Like I'd gotten all the ones with bronze and silver. Yeah, I gave up. I almost got the Bugs in the Branches one, which is like the first little adventure you find where you can kind of glide up and you get the little bugs and you jump on the mushrooms and you fly around. I almost got it, but I got like 2 away, and I was just so frustrated. I'm like, screw this, and I just went to a different route. So
I used to do that one to get the XP. That you have no problem with the XP. I was the opposite issue where I had a ton of mastery points, and it was just the XP grind that was brutal. And that's one that I would do on daily reset to get gold for the XP. And every time I would do it, it would take me at least 2 or 3 tries to get gold. And when I would get the gold, it was like I was getting the last, like, because I think it's 30 total, right? Or something to that effect. I would get like 28, 29, and 30 with like 5 seconds left. And so it's
hard.
Yeah.
No, all of them are hard. I tried a number of them and just couldn't do it. So I'm like, all right, we're not doing that anymore. So I went the more conventional route and decided, well, we're just going to do some of these. I had quite a number of them where like you finish out an event, basically start an event in a certain area and then just see it all the way through. And I had a number of those that I just never really either stuck around or I joined midway through. And so I didn't have all of them done. And it's one of those you need to be in the right place at the right time. So it's a little bit of a waiting game. But I didn't have at least 6 of them from Dragon's Stand. Yeah. And doing the Mordremoth meta. So finally got it all. And now I'm stuck in World versus World, so I've got that hill to climb. But managed to buy a lot of my junk, and of course I had to buy some gold from gems because I don't know how. I guess if you've just been playing forever and you just had gold at your butt, you could probably afford a lot of this stuff. But but just, stuff like buying 100 icy runestones, there's 100 gold there. And, it's a lot of all the materials, which I had about half of a lot of the materials, but not quite all of them. It's a lot of stuff. But anyway, that, and I ran the Turkalon event this morning, in New World, and it was fine. It was a big turkey. I got a skin for it's a fork with a big turkey leg on it for a warhammer, which is kind of cute and funny. Yeah. And then some big turkey something or other for, I guess, a cooking recipe or something. It's like a gold legendary cooking item or something. I don't know. But yeah, and I was like, okay, I did that, and that was that. I can't really say any. There was nothing. There's a statue in the town square that if you get close, it kind of makes you drown for some reason. I don't know.
It gobbles at you. No.
Yeah. Well, it's not even a turkey statue. It's just a statue of some dude. Maybe it's like a pilgrim or something like that. I didn't really get into the lore. I'm just like, I'm here to kill turkey, Turkalon, and So that was that. Other than that, that's really about it. I downloaded. There's a story on Project Gorgon. So, are you familiar with this sort of MMO? I guess you call it?
No, the name sounds familiar though.
Yeah, it's a small little MMO that was started by a couple, and they were actually developers for the original Asheron's Call, maybe Asheron's Call 2 as well.
Okay.
But they had since left. I'm sure, like Asheron's Call is obviously no longer. I'm sure you can find emulators and stuff like that nowadays. But that was one of my first MMO loves was that game, Asheron's Call 1.
Gotcha.
And it was kind of touted to be like a predecessor to Asheron's Call, and I was like, all right, well, I'll give this a shot. And there was a story that massively OP people with Bree and Justin I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about Project Gorgon, and I guess kind of the troubles and trials and all the stuff that they've been going through. It's just the two of them, and they've managed to get some people on board, and you can pay for it. There's a free demo, which is what I downloaded, but there's a paid subscription and all that. But I guess the female designer had gotten cancer a couple of years ago, and there's a lot of talk that maybe they wouldn't be able to keep the servers up. Yeah, like basically continue, like the guy was going to have to find an actual job to help pay for chemo and everything. And so they've kind of, I guess the community around the game has kind of rallied and ended up basically raising enough funds for like $20,000 for this couple.
Yeah.
To kind of keep the project going. So it kind of like pulled at my heartstrings a little bit, and so I downloaded it. And it's an interesting little game. I don't know if I'll continue playing it or not, but for people that might want to check it out, it's very rudimentary, more so than kind of like classic RuneScape, I would guess. But it looks like it could be fun. It's got elements of Asheron's Call, you can kind of tell, but it's definitely an indie game, an indie MMO, if anything. And I didn't get very far at all, so I think I got wiped out by a skeleton archer, and I'm like, wow, okay, maybe I wasn't supposed to attack that.
Darn skeletons.
But anyway, that's about it. What about you?
Well, not near as much stuff. It's just been a little this and that. I was talking to, I don't know if you were there, but I was talking to, no, you weren't, because I was talking to Tempest and Weevil specifically, and then Carb joined in this conversation. And we were having this discussion on like, there's like a lot of these like indie games that come out that would be like really great fun for like a month, and then you just may never touch them again. And one of those that we were looking at is a game called Lethal Company. So as I understand it, it's a horror survival game that's co-op. And so you and your friends play in as these workers for this company, and you're mining and scrapping, materials off this planet. Well, while you're doing this, there are like crazy alien monsters that are hunting you and chasing you down and stuff. So it leads to a lot of exciting and creepy and terrifying moments. I've not played, but it was $10 on Steam. And so we were having this discussion on how like it would be a lot of fun, like just that group, or that, just a few of us to just maybe get like one of these type of games every quarter or something, like, no more than like $10 to $15, and then just play them for like off and on for a little bit. Like, and if you recall, like with GG Party Chat, we would kind of do Dead by Daylight in a same way, like, around Halloween time. Oh yeah, let's download Dead by Daylight and play that a few times and then be done with it. And so we were talking about this, and it was like a lot of fun. And in that same spirit, we have been playing, and I mean myself and Tempest and Weevil have been playing Risk of Rain 2, which is an indie game, but it's very, it's well known. It's a popular roguelite game. And just something to where you like sit back and like, what, I don't need like to log into an MMO right now and just grind something that I've got a huge goal to obtain. We've been playing that. And then I have also been playing Fortnite because the OG map is back. So the map from 2018, with some college friends, and sometimes Tempest, sometimes Weevil. It's just been fun to kind of dive into stuff that's kind of mindless. I mean, we kind of had just a huge summer and then fall of gaming. And so it's been like, kind of like you, like just something that's, well, that you can just work towards, or in my case, just something where it's like, I just, I don't feel like grinding anything. I'm just going to turn my brain off and do something more action oriented. But then on the flip side of the coin, I have been playing Final Fantasy 14 because I am playing it a lot more casually than I have done in the past with MMOs. I mean, certainly ESO, once you get to a certain point, the only thing for you to really do that brings you any sort of benefit is more veteran content of dungeons and trials. And so when we hopped into Guild Wars 2, obviously we broke that cycle. But then with Guild Wars 2, I still had that like, okay, I want to get through the entire story, and then I want to finish all these masteries. And so while I'm on kind of a break from Guild Wars 2, it's nice because, one, I don't have to sub, and I know that I can come back and be right where I was. And so I'll come back eventually and play, through the story stuff. But right now with Final Fantasy 14, I'm just kind of like exploring and going at my own pace. I did get my black mage to level 38, which was the same as my monk. And then today I got my monk to level 40. And then I was like, hey, well, the fact that I can do all this on one character is fantastic, So I went and picked up Rogue, because I know that Weevil's going to be working towards Rogue and then Ninja. And so I was like, well, I think it'd be fun to do like maybe Rogue and Ninja as like my story, once I get the MSQ up to, or once I get the Rogue up to that, just play it as a Rogue, because I'm not a big fan of the way Black Mage plays. I can sense that it's very powerful, but it's like literally standing in one place with cast times. And it was a night and day difference, because today, is when I got my Black Mage to 38, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to Monk for a bit. And I did a dungeon queue with, was it Carb and Tempest? I think it was. And Carb was the tank, and Tempest and I were the DPS, and I was like, I'm going to run this as my monk. And I was just like, okay, like this Black Mage is way too slow compared to the way Monk plays. I mean, Monk, the only timer you're waiting on is that global cooldown. So you're like,
yeah,
boom.
there are no real.
There isn't. And so it's been a lot of fun to just kind of play with different classes. Again, it's very refreshing to do so with the same character rather than having to play on a different character and then run through the same, story quests that I've already done, because
no
whatever.
one would do that.
No,
not in that game.
No, not in that game. And Beetle, our friend Beetle, he was playing with us last night, and we did some dungeons, me, him, and Donut, or Tempest's Australian counterpart. And he made the comment, he's like, there are so many quests in this main storyline, and he's not wrong, just from 1 to 28 even, which I think I just hit the 30 quest today or last night or something, but there's 20 to 30, there's one for every level, sometimes multiple for every level. It's insane. Yep. So that's all I've been up to gaming wise. We'll talk more later, because I'm the whole topic of this episode with gaming while traveling, but why don't you run us through these news topics? We'll hit video game face-off, we'll discuss gaming while traveling, and then that'll be a wrap on the episode. But first up is the news. I still need a little sound bite for this. Maybe in the new year we'll get that done.
There you go. We'll have a news clip. All right, this first story is a little bit disheartening, I suppose, especially if you were actually playing Fractured Online. But so Fractured Online suffers a nasty admin hack that sees every player city in the game wiped out.
What?
Great.
That's brutal. Just deleted, or
Yep, just gone.
Oh boy.
So they just relaunched the early access of Fractured Online, which had suffered something of an apocalypse, as Dynamite Studio CEO.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Jacopo Galelli,
just
sounds
make
very
it
Italian.
Yeah.
Reported on Discord early this morning that his admin account was hacked, and that the hacker has deleted every player-built city in the game.
Oh, no.
This wasn't done by compromising my PC and stealing my data, but via back-end hack, says Galliani in the message. We have no idea what could have driven a person, what could drive a person
Malice.
to do something like this, but it happened. So, yeah, that's a big hurdle to get over. But though they just relaunched the game, and now they've got to deal with this, it's not gonna. That doesn't sit very well with people.
Can you? Well, the some of the stuff that's happened to Destiny, not the layoffs and all that, but there was what was it, these douchebags that were copy striking videos, and they had found a way to do it under the guise of Bungie, and so it looked like Bungie was copy striking all these content creators, like My Name is Bife and Aztec Cross and Datto and all those.
So that's what it had happened.
Well, no, what I'm saying is Like, that's a serious thing, and it's just devastating. And so you can imagine, like, the level of security that a company like Bungie or Blizzard or ZeniMax has. And then, like, these smaller studios, they just don't have that. So it's like they have to be doubly and triply like aware at all times. Like, we do cybersecurity training at work all the time. And the number one thing they say is you have to be right and protected 100% of the time, all the time. A hacker only has to get it right one time, and then it's devastation. So that's what happens, here. So
it's just sad.
It is sad. Especially because these, games are like an art form. So this is something that these developers have poured their hearts and souls into. They've made creative decisions, and for someone to just go in and wipe all that stuff out is disrespectful.
Well, I mean, it should be criminal, but
probably. I don't know how, what that would look like, but I agree with you.
Probably at some point that'll come. But on the flip side of all this, on the previous story that we just mentioned from Fractured Online, so PAX Day, we had mentioned this game before, a few episodes back. They've had their first, it's what they call a Home Valley Alpha hands-on impression. So the game had opened up to an alpha, and I think the entire world was quote-unquote semi-accessible, but mainly it was to test player housing and building and stuff in this game. So the game has a lot of almost survival elements to it. Like when you pop in, it's in Unreal Engine 5 first off. So it looks absolutely incredible. It's a complete like night and day cycle. You can see grass like flowing in the wind, like you would out in the world. In the real world,
outside the touch grass,
It's amazing. You can actually touch grass without touching grass. But let me pull up this article here. So I'd watched a couple of people in their reactions, and when they got in, I unfortunately did not get into this, which I sent an application to try to get invited to an alpha, but I don't even know if my computer would run this game, actually, to be honest with you.
On super low settings, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't.
Unreal Engine 5 is wild.
Yeah. But so PAX Day, to remind everyone, is an MMO that has caught our attention, at least my attention. I'm sure yours as well. It's a sandbox MMO where everything is player driven. So the things that you can build in the game, think of Fallout 76's lot claim, and being able to do that.
You mean like when
scale,
you do camps?
Basically, you claim a plot of land to build, and the amount of resources it's going to take to build like huge fort, like you see it in Ark. We saw it in Ark, like these huge, crazy things that people had built. It would take an entire community to build something like that. So the amount of scale is really cool, because what it would take, I think for an average player, you can build like a simple house would be an undertaking. To build an entire city would take a very, very large guild. So you can't just have, a single player that owns, all this land and can build like this entire city by his or herself. It's going to be kind of more of a group collaboration or, something of that nature. But it's basically to test, to give people, a feel for what the game is going to be like, at least from the sandbox part of it, where you can build, you can go out in the environment and gather and craft and that sort of thing. The game itself, just the lighting alone looks absolutely amazing. They were showing some pictures and some stream footage. I know Asmongold finally got in He sent out a Discord message, and he's like, "This game looks great. I need an invite. Why haven't I got an invite?" And so he just,
sure enough,
does a little ding, 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 and all of a sudden, he gets an invite and has a few invites that he can send to a few of his followers. But yeah, it looks great. I don't personally, honestly, I don't know if it's going to be completely for me, but I guess time will tell on stuff like combat and advancement, and because I'm not a huge builder, but at the same time, the amount of time and fun that we had just in 76 doing that kind of stuff, and put that in kind of a more Nordic medieval environment, it looks really, really good. I think it definitely has promise. So,
well, that was our probably collective favorite part of Fallout 76. I know that a few people that we played with, they weren't like into the building as much as I was with like all the different glitches and stuff.
In. Yeah, I got used to it, and I started to get really into it, especially when I built that little camp that was kind of underground, that was built part of the environment and stuff. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, that is when you're able to build anywhere in the world, it just opens up the possibilities. Like, I think we've mentioned it before, but like Elder Scrolls Online has probably the best housing in any MMO of all time.
Yeah.
But it's all instanced, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But 76 then has what I would say is one of the best, I guess, like the first half of it, where like the fact that you can just build anywhere you want, it really opens up that creativity to be like, I really like this cliff and this has a great view. I'm going to just design my entire base or camp or whatever up here. And so if you can do that same thing in PAX Day, then that would be a lot of
times
hours.
10.
Yeah.
It looks incredible. And so just that reason alone, like this kind of alpha that they've just, because I don't think they really opened up a lot of the upper end crafting for weapons and things. That you really need to defeat a lot of these monsters. People were going around in their skivvies with like a stone axe. I know there was a streamer that I watched earlier today. He was streaming this little part, or he had a little video, a YouTube video up where him and like this, basically a Zerg went into this quote unquote dungeon in the game, which is it's not instanced at all. Like you basically crawl down into this place and had like 30 guys or girls, and they all have like stone axes and torches and basically loincloths, and they're going through this dungeon with like that's all they have. And I guess they managed to get through it somehow. It's probably like the last person standing at that point, but I'm sure the mobs and stuff were not very kind to them. So, because I don't think there's not even really healing, at this stage in the alpha. So I'm sure there'll be multiple tests, for combat, for abilities and stuff. I know there's going to be a little bit of light magic in the game as well, so it'll be interesting to see where this game falls. But it definitely has my eye, just from this element of Fallout 76 that kind of was like, I remember that. That was a lot of fun, like just trying to find your little home and trying to figure out, all right, well, what kind of stuff can I build here? But all right, so the next story up is Baldur's Gate 3 Xbox release on track for December as Larian teases the Game Awards reveal. So what I've heard is that they plan to release the information on when Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out for Xbox. And I think they had promised 2023, but I don't know if that's going to make it. But maybe it'll be December 31st. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But
on Twitter, they say that they are confident it will be 2023.
Well, maybe it'll be one of those things that Phil Spencer gets up there and he's like, and you can buy it today, or one of those things.
Oh yeah, it's live now. Either that or they'll do Christmas. Maybe. I don't think they'd want to wait that long into the year. Maybe. I mean, it'd be a Christmas present.
Not.
That's great though. Just in general, that it's finally gonna get to be playable by Xbox people.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Xbox people, today is our friend Patrick Brennis's birthday. So,
happy birthday, Brennis.
If he's listening, I don't know if you are.
He's usually the first comment on our YouTube video. I don't know if he listens to the whole thing, but if he does,
go right to find out.
Yes, happy birthday, Brennis. Do you want to sing to him, Shiloh?
No. But I don't. I'll sing it like Marilyn Monroe.
How's that?
Happy birthday to
That's like
you.
a Gollum or creepy Smeagol.
Yeah, that's my best Marilyn Monroe.
Well,
very, very sexual.
hope
JFK
that was,
would love it.
if he didn't have a hole in his head. Oops, too soon.
Oops, too soon.
Probably. Yeah, it's all right. It's just the American government.
Yeah. That's really about it on news. I'm sure there's other news stories, but those are the ones that kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah. Well, I think then it's time for this.
Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've been waiting for. Video Game Face-Off!
Welcome back to Video Game Face-Off matchup. No clue what number, doesn't matter because I've got a bracket, and that's the one that tells me where we're at. This episode, this face-off, is Fallout New Vegas versus Mass Effect, the first one. We'll do what is New Vegas, what is Mass Effect, give our gut pick, and then we'll see which one comes out ahead. So, if somehow in the land of audio and YouTube and Spotify and wherever you listen to this, you have not heard of Fallout New Vegas, let me give you the elevator pitch. For a lot of people, it is the best Fallout game of the 3D first-person era, because there's Fallout 3, then it was New Vegas, then it was 4, and then it was 76, as we've just got done mentioning. Fallout 3 was the first Bethesda Fallout. Prior to that, it was owned by, I wanted to say Intrepid, but that's wrong. It's I'm pretty sure it started with an I. But anyway, it was from the 90s, and it was Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, and they were effectively CRPGs, so top-down, point-click, to move your little party and characters. And very popular games. I mean, very successful too. Like 1 and 2 were pretty beloved by fans. They released Tactics, and then maybe like a Brotherhood or something, Brotherhood of Steel 1. I don't remember. I actually own 1, 2, and Tactics on Steam, and I've tried playing 1, and it kind of meh. But did you look it up, Shiloh?
Interplay.
It was close. Intrepid Interplay.
Yep, he said I.
So Bethesda comes and buys the rights to the franchise. They release Fallout 3, and Fallout 3 was very popular, critically acclaimed. I mean, it was pretty striking because the first 30 to 60 minutes of the game, you're in the vault doing stuff. And then you have to, because of plot, you have to leave the vault for the first time in 100+ years. And that scene is pretty iconic where you're the vault door's opening and you step out into the wasteland that is Washington, D.C., except there's no people. Today, it's a wasteland, but there are people. So, but in this one, it's, bombs have fallen and you step out and that's your first sight. And the whole concept of Showcase Vista, I talked about in a YouTube video once upon a time. But that's, that was one of the first. You step out, here's the open world before you, go explore. So Fallout New Vegas was instead created by Obsidian, who are very well known. I mean, Obsidian did KOTOR 2, but then they did New Vegas. They are the Pillars of Eternity. They did Outer Worlds, many games. But this one specifically with Fallout New Vegas was a departure from Bethesda's way of storytelling and back into typical Obsidian storytelling. But they also did the franchise right in a lot of people's eyes by bringing it back to the West Coast. So you've got the mountains, you got the desert out there like the Mojave and all that stuff. And so they create this game that is and upon release, it was very buggy, and a lot of people didn't like it because it wasn't Fallout 3. And so all the older folks who had played Fallout 1 and 2 were like, okay, like this is back in that area of the country. So anyway, this game releases, and eventually over time, it's now probably the most beloved version of Fallout because it's a first-person shooter, exploration, a ton of like skill options in dialogue, they're like faction reputation, all this stuff with like Caesar's Legion, and then the it's been so long since I played, I don't remember all the different factions. What was some military faction. It was very popular then. It's very popular now. It's, again, arguably one of the best, but it is a bit aged at this point. And so that is kind of, it's typical Fallout. You've got super mutants, ghouls, death claws. That one had, again, a bunch of different people and robots, and then there was House, and the whole plot point is your character gets shot in a cutscene at the very beginning by this dude in a suit, and then you're chasing him down the rest of the game. All this stuff. Very good game, and that's kind of like Fallout at what some people would say it's best. So now we'll flip over to Shiloh, because Mass Effect is also no slouch of a game.
No, not exactly. Especially as a franchise, pretty beloved. Especially, probably one of the greatest space opera-esque franchise IPs out there. Especially, that's not Star Wars. That's not anything like that. It's the original IP based game. Mass Effect is a military science fiction media franchise. The franchise depicts a distant future where humanity and several alien civilizations have colonized the galaxy using technology left behind by advanced precursor civilizations. So it's a very, very good game. The first one, however, is probably not hailed generally by the population as the best. I think that generally goes to Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, I think
only
so
because the second one, they took a lot of the first person, the FPS elements of Mass Effect 1 are a little bit to be desired. The story itself is very, very good, and it obviously kicks off this enormous IP in the franchise. But as far as gameplay is concerned, I think a lot of people really prefer Mass Effect 2.
I think
of course, Mass Effect 3 kind of ends in a one of those types of things, and so they've had to do a little bit with that. And then Andromeda is this whole other pile of dog stuff that you kind of have to cipher through. But
I think this is kind of a Divinity Original Sin 1 versus Divinity Original Sin 2 situation, where like the first game is good, but
can't really.
But when you've played the second one, which at this point, Mass Effect's been around for a long time, 2 is the pinnacle of that series in many people's eyes. Divinity Original Sin 2 is better than DOS 1 in pretty much every way. So
yeah. Funny thing with it's only 3 years between
1 and
the
2
launches of Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2. So, and then just 2 years between Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3.
needed that extra
Andromeda
year.
took 5.
Okay,
so.
maybe not, because they had 5 years. Although
Yeah.
game development has changed since then, because Mass Effect 1 was 2008, 2007?
2007.
And then that means the second one was 2010, and then that means 3 was 2012, and then 2017 for Andromeda. And so you're like, game development has changed. But
Yeah, that's still a lot of games in 10 years span.
yeah.
For an original IP to launch, especially with the involvement of, it's a very, very involved RPG. There's a lot of, I'm sure it had a lot of slack there's a lot of same-sex relationships and lots of sexual minorities. You can, do it with some aliens if you want. That kind of the MO of that game. Provocative. But it's that's Mass Effect for you. If you haven't played, I highly recommend it. They have what did they
It's like a
re-release?
remaster or
Remastered. Yeah, I bought that. I think it's free on Game Pass now. But and it doesn't change a whole lot, especially for the first one. But when you get to 2, it does add some elements to it. A little sparkle here, a little sparkle there, some elements of Mass Effect 2 with the first person elements of the shooting and the wheels and stuff they added to Mass Effect 1, so it makes it a little bit more streamlined, a little easier to play. But it's a very, very, very good franchise. So.
All right, Shiloh, off the top of your gut, which one are you going with?
I've played both, and my gut pick, if this was Mass Effect 2, I would have to give it to Mass Effect 2. But I've played almost every Fallout game since. I haven't gotten through 4. I just kind of gave up on 4 because I think I missed the boat on it, and then 76 came out, and I got on that boat, and I had to go back on 4, and it's just been kind of like this back and forth. But anyway, I'm gonna have to give it to Fallout New Vegas. I know there's a lot of talk and a lot of player enthusiasm for Obsidian to re-release or remaster or do something with Fallout New Vegas. And of course they haven't. I think that's when Avowed actually got announced. There was a lot of hope right before Avowed got announced that that's what they were working on was Fallout New Vegas 2 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because it was like the something anniversary of Fallout in general.
Yeah,
I think
but
it was.
for that to happen, I think Bethesda and Obsidian would have to kind of go arm in arm because Bethesda owns the IP, right? I don't think they...
I don't know. It's owned by Microsoft because doesn't Microsoft own both those entities now? So
Well, that's true. They could say, you kids play nice.
you kids put you in a room, play nice.
We're just, play Fallout boy nice because we're going to make you... We're both going to your rooms. I'm going to have to go with Fallout New Vegas. Like I said, if Mass Effect 2 were the element, but that's not it. It can't really... It isn't Fallout versus Mass Effect, the ultimate showdown. It's a particular game versus another particular game.
If it was, I think that would be a tougher... it would certainly
I would
be
still
tougher.
go with Fallout, but, not being a sci-fi, quote-unquote nerd, being a more fantasy nerd, and I love Fallout because it's just kind of, I don't know, it's something different. It's an apocalyptic version of a little bit of both. So, I'm going to go Fallout New Vegas.
So I'm going with Fallout New Vegas as well. However, it's also for similar reasons. But my thing is, like, the Fallouts have to stand on the IP. Like the IP carries each of those games, and because Fallout New Vegas was a return and sort of a like an honor of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but like an honorary version of 1 and 2 using that setting, the Mojave setting with all that stuff. It really like played homage to the origins of the IP completely. Like you've got Fallout 3 that jumps to Washington D.C. and that's very interesting, and it's an all right game. If I had to pick between those two, I would still pick Fallout New Vegas. But then you get into the modern era and you've got Fallout 4, which goes back to the East Coast. And so you see a lot of that old Americana. And there's a certain charm that Bethesda was able to do with that. And now I see like you've got sort of two different areas of Fallout. You've got the Mojave area, which is 1, 2 in New Vegas. And then you've kind of got the East Coast old Americana, which is 3, 4, and 76. And so like together, like you were saying, like that creates this massive IP that I do think is better than Mass Effect. The problem then is like where Mass Effect would have a chance in theory is, you know, it created the Mass Effect franchise, which, as you said, is one of the most beloved space RPGs of the modern era. I mean, behind what, Halo, there's like, it's like the next one, I think. Yeah. Or certainly it was the next one following how successful Halo was. But its approach was a little more science instead of science fiction like Halo. You know, a little more built on like the character relationships and stuff. But New Vegas is, if this would have been release versus release, I think that Mass Effect would win. But New Vegas has become kind of that cult classic of the franchise. And again, like it's a very good game. I think my favorite Fallout might still be 4 or 76, which is like heresy to most people.
Yeah.
But the reasoning like is because of how well both of those games deliver this Fallout IP. And of course, like again, we're talking two different eras or two different versions of Fallout IP, which is the Mojave versus the East Coast. But yeah, I'm going to give it to New Vegas for much of the same reason.
Yeah,
it's the best.
It would be really, really cool if, because you have this large IP, and since Microsoft owns both Obsidian and Bethesda now, it would be cool if they did a kind of almost a Star Wars, what Disney did with Star Wars, and basically say, okay, you guys do little bits of Star Wars and spin them your own way, and kind of sprinkle up the Fallout love between Obsidian. Like, okay, you guys collaborate. Obsidian, you cover the West Coast, and Bethesda, you stay on the East. And they just make different games, and even if they weren't necessarily all RPGs, if you know, if one of them wanted to do an MMO, like sort of like 76, but then go for it. You know, that sort of thing would be really, really, especially with the Amazon series coming out soon. You would think that there would be kind of a push towards something new, Fallout related, gaming wise. We know that Bethesda is not on track to put out Fallout 5 anytime soon. So,
but if the keys were given to Obsidian, a lot of people would be very happy about that. I don't know how all that works. You know, like,
yeah, I don't either, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't get into that. But from a gamer perspective, I think that would be a really, really cool way to go. Is you toss the ball to Obsidian, let them do something for a year or two while you guys are working on Elder Scrolls 6, and then Obsidian can pass it back to you after Elder Scrolls 6 gets released, and you guys keep passing the ball back and forth. That way we can keep the IP always, you know, with something, and not oversaturate it, kind of like what Star Wars, I think, honestly, has done.
Yeah.
with just oversaturation with Star Wars, and that's not necessarily a huge bad thing, but it can lead to some bad, some good, and you have stuff like we got Rogue One out of it, we got
Andor,
obviously, we got Andor out of it, and then we got
Mando.
Mando, duh. But so but then we have all these. I like Rebels and all of that, but it's a little much for a normal non-fanatic, and I still would like to say I'm somewhere mid-range on the Star Wars universe,
Star Wars fan.
I'm a mid-range Star Wars fanatic, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It would be good. And the IP itself is great for telling individual stories. That's why I've said that, when it comes to Lord of the Rings, a lot of people didn't like Rings of Power because it's like they know the story of Lord of the Rings. The people who really know the story of Lord of the Rings also know the Silmarillion and the Hobbit. And so they're trying to see how Amazon was going to fit their version into what's already there, and they're very, very particular about that. And so I understand that, but whereas what's different is the Fallout IP, like the way the stories in those games have been told already, they're very singular. So I don't know about 1 and 2, but like 3 has in no relation, or is in no relation to New Vegas. Both of those two are in no relation to Fallout 4. And then 76 is in no relation to any of them either. And so the show that's coming out, all they have to do is have the hallmarks of Fallout. They have to have ghouls, super mutants, Pit Boys, that 50s aesthetic, all that stuff. And it's going to be good, because as long as the story isn't like super cheesy and the dialogue terrible. But like it's not like the Halo TV show, where the Halo TV show changed this established canon stuff from the Halo universe. Like the only thing that we know about the Fallout lore that is a constant is that there's vaults by Vault-Tec, and there's Deathclaws, super, the typical stuff. So they could show 1 or 2 of all those things, as long as they put the vibe in there. I think it'll be decent. So
there's no real quote unquote canon. There's more lore and dressing than there is. Yes. So it's just a matter of getting the lore, the curtains, the bed sheets, and all that type of stuff all tic-tac.
So all that to say, Fallout New Vegas wins against Mass Effect. So next matchup, and this probably won't be until the new year, because the next 3 episodes have their own specific focus. But this is War of the Monster, which is, or Monsters, which is a 2003 title that was on PlayStation 2, versus Slay the Spire, which is a 2019 game. War of the Monsters for you, Shiloh. I'm going to send you some videos because I think you need to see what this game is. But it's like they took like 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s B movie like monsters. So like a giant praying mantis, a
like
King
Gojira.
Kong, Godzilla. There's like a giant alien, in it. That type of stuff. And they put them in a game, a fighting game, where you fight with special moves and attacks and everything in a 3D map.
There's a board game that does that, right?
King of Tokyo, probably.
Yeah.
It is basically King of Tokyo, or there's King of New York. That, but in a video game. But you're playing these monsters in these 3D environments, and they're like cities and stuff, and you can destroy them. Like you can climb on top of buildings and like rip antennas off and throw them at your players that you're fighting, or the AI or whatever. So we'll get into that more, but that's kind of the primer. And then Slay the Spire is obviously a roguelike card game and very popular. It's a very good game. So we'll go over that next time there is a video game face-off. But that's all the video game face-off for this episode. Let's talk about gaming while traveling. This is another situation where I need a new soundbite. We're going to do that in the new year. But for the news and then for the game the discussion topics.
Yeah,
I got work
Willie
to do,
Nelson's
apparently.
on the road again.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
So gaming while traveling. I threw this out here because I am about to travel with kids for Thanksgiving. You've traveled. We all travel. In fact, we're planning a retreat with some friends next October. So that's going to be more traveling. But I wanted to pose this to you, and you put like a link in here that I want you to describe and go over with for our listeners. But from my perspective, gaming while traveling can go either two ways. And I've seen like journalists do the one of these, and then I think the average person maybe goes the opposite. And so it really comes down to, do you unplug completely while you're traveling to take a break, or do you bring something so you can game while you're traveling? And what would you bring? Now, this could be board games, video games, whatever, but I'm curious. But before we maybe dive into that and just have like a back and forth, what is this says Shiloh's ideal gaming while traveling scenario, smiley face. What is this, Shiloh? Do tell.
It's just something I stumbled upon kind of I think I did gaming while traveling. I just did a search on YouTube. And this popped up after a little bit of side scrolling and all that. So the guy is basically just a content creator. It's the fine print. There are 3 T's. Well, there's 2 T's before the, and then 2 T's after print, after the T in print. So it's TTTHEFINE. You get the idea.
Kids and their fancy way of spelling easy words.
But it's a guy that basically converted a van, and I want to say he might be from North Carolina. I didn't really do a whole lot of research on this. I just found the video and was like, this is interesting. But he's converted his van. It looks like an old Dodge. Not old. It looks like a fairly new van. He's got, oh crap, the not Spacelink, the Skylink. Internet,
the Elon Musk
on it. I guess solar panels, probably batteries. But he's got this thing all decked out inside, and it's a very, very well. It's recorded really, really cool. He's got music that's playing in the background. It looks like he might be kind of I'm going to guess like a Boone, North Carolina kind of hippie sort of, maybe not necessarily a hippie, but, some sort of almost like American gypsy. But to me, like, it's basically him. He just travels around the U.S., and I don't know if this is all he does for a living. But for him and what he has, it looks pretty incredible. It's basically, he's got almost all the stuff you would need in a huge RV condensed into a Dodge van. And he's got like wood paneling inside. He's got a gas stove that he cooks on, a little fridge. He has his dog with him that just goes around. And he's got a PC, and it kind of just shows him just going around out and, shows this gorgeous environment out in the, I don't know where he is, but it looks like somewhere in the Rockies, because the mountains are certainly not the Smoky Mountains, because it looks like a snow cap and everything. Maybe
they
it's
actually look like mountains
up north in the northern Adirondacks, but it looks great because he just makes like coffee and takes his dog for a walk and walks around, just kind of breezing in the air. And then at night when he's done doing, all of its outside stuff, he basically cooks dinner and just sits there and games. And he was playing Warcraft on his computer, and in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, that is really, really, really nice. The only thing that I would run into, and they actually show, which I was thinking this immediately, I'm like, well, what does he do for to get clean? Take a shower and stuff. And then the next frame, it's just him, he's got a tea kettle on the stove, and it just kind of takes it off, and he's got a sink there, and he just kind of pours it all over his long hippie hair, and brushes his teeth, and I guess that's his idea of clean. But it's better than nothing, I suppose. I'm sure he rinse, or maybe goes and can go to a public
like a truck
shower
stop or something.
Yeah, something like that every once in a while. But for what you can just kind of get by with a damp cloth and some soap, and some people don't even do that. So he's got
and
that
they have access to a full shower, and they still don't. What's wrong with them?
Well, there is the toilet thing, which I guess you just go out in the woods if you're in the middle of nowhere. So
yeah.
But yeah, if you want to look it up, I only watched this one. I'll link it in the show links, but it looks pretty ideal to me. Me personally, before we get started, I don't really necessarily game while traveling.
Okay.
I don't have a Steam Deck. I don't have a
Switch?
Vita. I don't have a Switch for sure. I don't have. I've taken my Xbox in the past with me. I mentioned I bought my first 360 when I was in Rhode Island visiting my sister. So I've done that in the past. I don't know about bringing my Series X with me. It's a little bulky, and I'm not shoving that thing in a suitcase. It's $500. It was more than that when I bought it.
Yeah.
But and I'm certainly not bringing my desktop PC. I do have a laptop still that when we were originally recording GG Party Chat, that's what I used for years.
Yeah.
But
it's
so
not like
I can
a
bring
gaming
that.
laptop, though, is it?
It's not really a gaming laptop, but I do have Skyrim downloaded on that thing, which I brought it when went on a family trip to West Palm Beach. No, Orlando last year, 2 years ago. And I just never got around to playing it. So I almost kind of unplug. There are times where I'm like, kind of wish I could play games, but I don't really bring board games because I'm usually by myself, and you can't really play board games by yourself. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, and Kindle Fire, I have a Kindle Fire. That's really the only thing, like a small little thing I'll generally bring with me for sure. But the amount of games that you can really buy or download on a Kindle Fire are pretty limited and kind of sketchy at that. So
when's the last time you played like a game on your phone? Like whatever, just I don't know what the game might be. Not like Solitaire or Minesweeper, but like
I think I tried out Elder Scrolls Legends when it first launched.
So this is a few years then. I mean, what?
Yeah,
before
and
2020.
I just was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not. Maybe it's just my generation thing, but I just don't really. Of course, I grew up with my brother had a Game Boy, like he would play that. I don't, because I don't game at work. Obviously, I don't even talk on my phone or text or anything. I'm full at it. So there's that in me where I use my phone for Discord and calls and paying bills, and that's pretty much it. Music.
Yeah.
I do listen to a lot of music, and I read a lot of books when I travel. So that's the mainstay of what I do. So
I don't know if it's generation necessarily, because I'm not in your generation, but I'm kind of the same way. And I did grow up with a Game Boy, multiple Game Boys, playing Pokemon, Mega Man Battle Network, all different types of games. But for some reason, like the gaming on a phone thing just doesn't I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I just
can't do
never gotten into it. RuneScape does have a mobile version, and it's the same game as is on PC, and you can play your same character in either place. And so when I've been like heavy into that game within the past few years, once in a while, like I would play it while I was traveling or on vacation, because a lot of what I would do was like the AFK stuff. Like, I'm just going to sit there and fish and then hit the button every now and then when I need to recast my net or something. But nowadays, I'm definitely more of the unplug version. And so, like, I mentioned this little retreat that we're going to go on, like, in next fall. I am planning to not play games. I'm not going to bring anything except maybe like a board game or two that I think would be fun with people. But board games and the concept of them are to get you to play with other people in person. And so that makes sense. And that's why for the longest time, like, if I was going to travel, especially like to visit my parents, I'm going to bring 1 or 2 board games. My parents, or certainly my mom, comes from like a pretty heavy card playing family, like games I've never heard of, like Gin Rummy, Rummy Royal. I have played Rummy Royal. All sorts of like Canasta, maybe. That sounds like something she would have played.
Euchre?
Euchre's a Midwest thing, and once upon a time I knew how to play that. Bridge, definitely. What's the one with the pegs in the like you go up and down this like little peg board? Oh, what's it? Might not be
Badminton?
No, that's
Backgammon.
No, it's not bad. I don't know what it's called, but they play that a lot. So that's kind of been a mainstay in my, as I was growing up, like a lot of card games and stuff. And so the board game route is very easy for me.
Oh, Pinochle?
No, I like it. You're like, oh, of course it's this. And then you said a word I've never even heard of before. No, it's not bridge. It's cribbage, maybe. It might be. Yeah, because a cribbage board, right? Does that sound right? Cribbage board.
That could be it.
That's absolutely what it is. Cribbage. Okay.
Cribbage.
Whatever. Like these type of games, those games. Now me, I kind of evolved and I want like the weird board games, like if I had what's it called? Mice of Mystics? The Mystic Mice.
Mice and Mystics?
Yeah. If I owned that game, I would, that would be something like that I would bring. With kids now and owning a Switch, I've kind of gotten away from the unplugged thing. I still personally, like, I will bring a ton of books. Well, not a ton, but 1 or 2 books on this vacation. But we are, and a board game. But we are bringing a Switch because the Switch is another one of those things in the games we have for it where it's designed to play with other people. So like Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Mario Party. Those are the 3 that we will likely play. But also because of the dynamic of kids and napping and everything, like it's something that the kids can do when everyone is sleeping or whatever, just to get out of grandparents' hair, that type of thing. And so I've kind of eased up on the whole unplugging thing myself. But like I would never bring a laptop to game on. I would never bring a console like a PlayStation or a Xbox to hook up somewhere and game on. I mean, my brother and dad have one of those anyway. But like I know there are some people that like, these games that they play, like whether it's World of Warcraft or whatever, like they want to take it with them on their vacation, whether it's, we could have a conversation on whether that's like game addiction. I don't really think it is. I mean, it's just, that's your hobby. You want to take it with you. But I typically do not play games that I would play, like I would play at home. Like I might hop on my dad's PS4 and see if he's got some game that I might want to just putz around in. Yeah. But it's not serious. It's more of like a pastime. Do you Well, you probably do. You play card games at all, like with the family? Like, so for Thanksgiving get together, like those?
No.
Okay.
No, my family's not really a card loving. I mean, my mom plays like solitaire on her computer a lot.
That's funny.
And it's probably my dad doesn't really play cards, I guess. I'm not a big card player. It always makes me think of jail or something else. It's like, no, I don't need to play.
Or the
a
army.
standard deck of cards. Like I'll play.
I'm in France.
Any other card game. Like I don't.
1944. Gotta play
Yeah,
cards.
I mean, I know how to play poker. I know how to play spades and a lot of the basic card games. But I just.
So your family doesn't. Your dad doesn't. What's his take on the whole game table thing? So you, listener, if you didn't know, Housewood Designs, custom game tables. You know, that's your little plug. But what is his mentality about that? Because obviously he's designing and working with you on these tables that are their sole purpose. Well, now that because you are very good at the custom portion and the multi-use, you could eat dinner on these tables, and underneath is a whole world of fantasy. So get your wood on.
The world,
Housewood Designs.
The world is your oyster.
But so what's his take on this? Because obviously he's helping you, or you guys are collaborating on this product that is used in many ways for what we're talking about. You get the family together to play games, or friends together to play games.
Oh, I mean, he'll play stuff. I mean, he played stuff with us kids. He was playing. He called me the other day. He was playing Candyland. No, What was he playing with? Candyland with my nephew, Henry. And so, he's not above that or anything. It's just we've never, as a family, never really sat down and played a deck of cards. I can't think of a time that's really honestly ever happened.
Okay.
It's usually us kids that would start up the instigation for like, let's play a board game. We'd grab a basic board game, and then eventually that grew into, me trying to get my brothers and like, you're playing Dungeons and Dragons right now. And this is what you're making, and this is what we're doing, and I'm doing it, and you're going to roll those dice and do what I tell you to, because I'm the dungeon master.
I'm the dungeon master.
But yeah, it's obviously it's all different areas, but yeah, I'm completely not completely unplugged. I've obviously, I just said that I've done it in the past. I brought a laptop with me thinking that maybe I would want a game, but I just never really got around to it. Like, it's just not really, even when I was at a gaming convention at PAX West in Seattle, the only gaming I did there was actually at the convention center. I never.
Oh yeah, like on the stations that they've set up and stuff.
Yeah, like that was enough gaming for me, for sure.
That's fascinating. I mean, it makes sense though. Like, you're going there for gaming, but not to game. The hobby is what's driving you there, but there's so much other things to do. And I think I'd be the same way at
and
Gen
there was a
Con.
lot of, I'd never been to Seattle before, so I just would walk around and just breathe it all in. So I had more to do than just sit in my hotel room and play games. So I guess it's that sort of mentality. Like, if I'm gonna actually go on vacation, if I'm actually gonna go somewhere that I want to go to, or or I should want to go to, then I'm not gonna take the stuff that I normally do at home. That seems like a very repetitive day in, day out thing, although that gives me a lot of happiness and joy, when I get home from work at night.
Oh yeah.
Is to sit down and, have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever and just game until, I get tired and go to bed and rinse and repeat. But it offers that little bit of, a lot of people drink or play fantasy football or watch movies or watch crappy TV shows all night long, and I just go home and game. That's my thing. So, But to break that up, I'm going on vacation. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else. So I want to do something different, which is why I like the board game approach and kind of more socialized. Of course, what I mentioned before is it's generally just me traveling, so I'm not going to bring board games, or I could play solitaire, I guess, if I wanted to play an actual deck of cards and play solitaire, but that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But yeah, but like this gathering that we're going to next October, that's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of people there, in very similar mindset that we are in, that will play board games, that will play a quick one shot D&D adventure, or a space adventure RPG, or whatever we have going down that pipeline. So
the irony is that all of us we all met playing video games online. And I bet you the only video games that will be played that entire little retreat will be if someone brings a working N64 with like Smash Brothers or Mario Kart. Like that would be the only time video games get played. Otherwise, it's just going to be board games, maybe some tabletop, and just making food, hanging out. Like that's going to be the whole focus. I mean, it's the concept where like I don't need to bring my hobby with me to something like that, because the purpose is the destination and the people. So I mean, that's the same thing with like going to my parents. Like I'm going there to visit my parents. Yeah. I can integrate board games and card games into that because I'm still interacting with them and doing something with them. But like to bring video games, again, the Switch aside, because that's more of like a passive thing to do. And even the games I mentioned, like that stuff my dad and my brother could play with my kids. But like these game journalists, like it makes sense for them because they're traveling solo to conventions. They're in their hotel room. They need to write about a game or do something with the game. So they're probably playing it in their hotel rooms, all this. That's just not me. I'm using that time to read.
Lifestyle, and I game generally at home, almost every night, sometimes throughout the day if I'm off work. So and a lot of these journalists are, depending on your job, you may not have that opportunity. You might have to be on the go. You might be traveling half a day, 3 days out of the week, I don't know. But so if you are, or commuting, like I literally work 10 minutes away from where I live. So my commute is very small. But if I were to actually commute and I didn't have to drive, if I'm living in New York or I'm taking a subway everywhere, then I'm probably going to invest in a Steam Deck. I'm probably going, so there's that element as well. Like that is not necessarily traveling, quote unquote. But if you're commuting 3 hours a day just to get to work, that would be my idea of traveling. Like I would want something probably either that or just read a lot of books or listen to a lot of music, but or you could do both, but also have a Steam Deck or have more mobile games or something. But I could definitely see that.
Yep. Well, I think that covers it. I don't know that I will ever break out of this mindset. I think it'd be curious to see in 20 years, like, because my generation is the last generation that grew up without video games being in every way possible, like phones and tablets and computers and consoles and even smart TVs, whatever. The 90s was the last decade in which, for the most part, a Game Boy didn't come out till mid 90s and then so on and so forth. But those were expensive. And as a kid, like you had to convince your parents to get it. And then even then, as a kid, I would play my Game Boy in like a little tree fort with my other friends who are also playing their Game Boys. So we're still playing together outside, that type of thing. I guess we're the last generation before the internet took over. So in 20 years' time, it'd be interesting to revisit this topic with the younger generation and see if gaming has become in a way the same as like movies and music, even where people listen to music no matter what you're doing. Like gaming obviously requires your attention, so you can't game while you work, but you can listen to music while you work. You couldn't, you could probably if you had, let's say, a TV in the kitchen, you could probably put a movie on and have it playing while you're working.
That would be annoying, but yeah.
It would be annoying, yeah, sure. But like that would be doable in some capacity, but like you couldn't have a video game up playing it while you're cooking. So I don't know if it'll ever change, but it would be interesting to see the mentality of people, like if board games and these old card games and stuff like Rummy and Cribbage and whatever phase out and it's replaced with handheld video games that people can play wirelessly and stuff. So
yeah,
I guess we'll see if the world doesn't explode before then. So
time will tell.
That was great. Okay, so that's the end of this episode. Next episode, there will not be an episode on the 27th. So the next episode will actually be in December, and it'll be the episode prior to the Game Awards, which is on the 7th, I think. It's a December 7th, maybe. Let's take a look.
I believe so.
Yes, December 7th, Thursday. So our next episode will come on the 4th.
Okay.
And that will be a rundown of all the nominations for the Game Awards, our picks for each of them. I think there's 31 categories. The episode after that will be Christmas themed. I believe Jordan is still good to join us for that. We'll plan that out when due time. And then the final episode of the year will be our top 10 games we played in 2023, which is always a fun one, look back, but two, like it's fun to kind of quantify and qualify what we've done, what we've wasted our time on, maybe you could say. So, all right. Any final words, Shiloh, as the music carries us out?
I don't believe so. Have a good Thanksgiving if you're in the U.S., and if you're not, have a good late November, I suppose. I don't know.
Yes. Thank you, listener, for giving us an hour and some change of your day. We will talk to you in the next episode in 2 weeks, not next week.
Yes.
Peace.
Adios. Questing the Multiverse is brought to you in part by Coniff Productions, House Wood Designs, and Joel Crawford. To follow along with our adventures, please follow us on Twitter at QTM Podcast and consider joining our Discord, the link of which can be found in the show notes or in our Twitter bio. Want your questions or comments read on the show? Email us at questingthemultiverse@gmail.com. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a review or a follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening.